Hello, everybody. It is so wonderful to see you all here. I just, every year we get more and more people, and it's so gratifying to see the interest that the borough has in their future. So thank you all for coming. Thank you so much. And the town meetings give us an opportunity to hear what you have on your mind. And then it gives you an opportunity to question our plans for the future of the borough. So again, thank you so much for coming here tonight. And I will now turn it over to our borough manager, Jamie Snyder.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for coming. Just wanted to go over for Hatfield Borough elected officials, you have your council president, Jason Ferguson, your council vice president, Rich Gerard, council member Larry Burns, council member James Fagan. Okay, I'm switching back. No problem. Council member Michelle Kresser, Mayor Marianne Gerard, and tax collector Marie Snyder. Presenters this evening are going to be myself, the borough manager, Stephen Fickert, Public Works Director and Electric Superintendent, Chad Camburn, the borough engineer, and Stephen Barth, President of Barth Consulting Group. Tonight's agenda includes a 2024 financial overview, 2024 projects overview. We'll talk a little bit about communications for Hatfield Borough. And then we'll pass it over to Steve Barth from Barth Consulting. He'll talk about the revitalization project that's going on in Hatfield Borough and the community survey results. Tonight, if you have any questions and you're joining us online, as this is being live streamed and recorded, you can ask in the question and answer section on the Zoom feature. You can email admin@hatfieldborough.com. or you can text 267-421-4753 anytime during the meeting. We'll take questions during the entire meeting. There'll be sections, and then at the end, if anyone has any follow-up questions. Pretty informal, just want to have a conversation about what's going on in the borough and especially talk about the community survey. So first, we'll start with the 2024 financial overview. We'll highlight a little bit about the 2024 budget. We'll talk about Hatfield Borough's debt payments and borrowing, and we'll talk about some of our investments. The approved 2024 operating budget of $10.8 million reflects no increase to the 3.25 millage real estate tax, which includes fire tax. There was also no increase in electric and sewer rates for 2024. Hatfield Borough receives 3 mills and the Hatfield Volunteer Fire Company receives 0.25 mills for a total millage of 3.25. Talk a little bit about taxes and tax valuations for the borough. So an estimated income for evaluation for borough is $138 million. So if you can see here on the left, out of that $138 million, for 0.25 mills, Hatfield Borough receives $34,000 in revenue for 0.25 mills. So on our 3.25 mills, we're not going to include the $34,000 in revenue. Hatfield Borough receives annually $414,915 from real estate taxes. When we move over to the right-hand side of the screen, this is just a valuation based on the average home. Valuations of $143,071. It's not what your house is going to sell for, so don't be alarmed. You're only getting $143,000 for your home. It's just a valuation based on the millage. So in 2024, for 3.25 mills, the average homeowner is paying $481.84 a year in taxes to Hatfield Borough. That equals out to about $40.15 a month. Moving down, if there would be, we're not saying there is, but just hypothetically, if there would be a tax increase in Hatfield Borough, what you would be looking at 3.5 mills, 3.75 mills, 4 mills and a 1 mill increase of 4.25 would get you the average 1 mill increase. You would pay $12.35 more a month than you currently are paying in real estate taxes for the borough. That's based on the $143,071 valuation. And these valuations come directly from Montgomery County. It's not something that Hatfield Borough creates. They're provided for us based on our taxes, population, those type of instances. This is just a sample of the 2 tax bills that a Hatfield Borough resident would receive. The tax bill on the top is your county and your borough taxes. The tax bill at the bottom is your North Penn School District taxes. This is just an average tax bill for a homeowner in Hatfield Borough. What I want to draw your attention to is on the right-hand side of the screen, this map. So in a calendar year for your taxes, Hatfield Borough real estate taxes are 8% of what you pay in a calendar year for your taxes. Montgomery County and Montgomery County Community College equate for 12% of that. Hatfield Volunteer Fire Company, 1% of that. And North Penn School District taxes are 79% of the taxes that you pay annually. And Hatfield Borough is 23rd lowest in real estate taxes in Montgomery County. There are 67 municipalities in Montgomery County. So for our 2024 budget, our revenue highlights, just wanted to highlight a few things here to talk about real estate transfer tax, earned income tax, our local service tax. Those are taxes outside of real estate taxes where Hatfield Borough receives revenue. From 2023 up to 2024, we estimated an increase of $50,000 that we will be receiving in revenue from those taxes. And when we break that down from those taxes plus our real estate taxes, there's an estimated income of $964,915 in taxes in Hatfield Borough out of our $10 million budget. Some of the other revenue highlights that are in here is a sale of fixed assets. We currently have some property that we're looking to sell on municipal and a transfer from our electric fund of $975,000 to cover partially our police services agreement at $995,000 in 2024. Some expense highlights. These do not include general expenses, wages, benefits, your property maintenance, your building expenses. Just some things. We are investing some money into the SEPTA property and Steve Barth and his revitalization project that we're doing in the borough that he's going to talk about later this evening. We have some police services. Borough Council has allocated funding for the first time as a line item for VMSC, which is your local medical emergency ambulance corps. That's $15,000. We purchased a new backhoe at $67,000 over a 3-year period. We're doing some pole replacement that Steve's going to talk about later in this presentation. Some utility project work at $2.8 million. Chad's going to highlight that later in this presentation. So all of this accumulates for about $4 million of that $10 million budget that the borough is operating on this year. I want to highlight, which I think is something really big that this board and this staff is looking forward to this year. For the first time ever, we are going to have a budget presentation meeting, and that's going to be held on November 13th. The board and staff have never had a budget presentation meeting outside of a workshop or a regular meeting. We normally talk about the budget during our workshop and our regular meetings, but the board and staff thought that it was really important to have a designated separate meeting to talk about the budget, to invite the public, come ask us questions. We'll break down the budget line item by line item. We'll talk about where your tax dollars are going. We'll talk about what projects we're doing. We'll talk about how we're going to bring in more revenue, what our expenses are going to be. So it's just a really open-ended conversation, and that is going to be held on November 13th at 7 p.m. here in council chambers. Talking about our debt payments and borrowing. So in Hatfield Borough has a few series notes. We have a 2020 series note at 0.87%. We have a 2021 series note A and B at 1.6% and 4.3%. And those were for past projects. The 2021 was a 2020 was a refinance along with the Borough building, and 2021 was mostly for the East Lincoln Avenue Bridge project that we completed at the end of 2020. I guess it was the end of 2021. And talking about that, for the 2021 series notes A and B, Hatfield Borough in April made a $1.2 million payment towards those debts. And in May, we will be paying another $93,000 towards those debts. So we're looking to restructure our debt a little bit, take some of that burden off of us, because as you can see in the lower corner, $542,471 is allocated just towards debt payments out of our borough budget. And that does not include the $99,000 that we have for our AMI repayment that will continue through September of 2025. Moving forward for this year, for 2024, we are having the conversation of borrowing series notes again, an A and a B, which is just a long-term and a short-term note. Why we borrow A and B is because we're looking to do the $2.8 million utility replacement project. It is $1.8 million grant funded, so we will borrow on a short term and a long term. For the short term, when we get those grants reimbursed us, we'll pay that debt off almost immediately. It depends how long we have to carry that. It could be up to a few months, it could be up to a year. It just depends how fast the state can process our grant reimbursement. And currently, you can see that those interest rates estimated are 3.9% for the A note and 4% for the B note, which was a lot different than our 2020 at 0.87% and our 1.6% in 2021. So after the project is bidded and awarded, and we start construction on that, which Chad will go over that schedule later this evening, we'll talk about borrowing, and that will be at a public meeting. We'll have questions, we'll be able to answer those. We're just looking forward to moving that project along, and part of that project is borrowing money. So Hatfield Borough currently has some money in investments. We talk a lot about this at the Borough Council meetings. It's always in the workshop meeting. Hatfield Borough has some T-bills in the electric managed. We have a 6-month, a 24-month, and 2 24-months. The 1 24-month actually only has 10 months left. We had, which is highlighted here. We purchased those at a federal cost, as you can see here, and they're going to mature to par at $250,000. We also have another investment in the sewer managed in a T-bill for a 6-month, where we had purchased it at federal cost, and it will mature to par at $250,000. Hatfield Borough's always had money in investments, but this board over the past 2 years now have really taken a hard look at being a good steward of the borough's money and trying to work with the market and the economy that we currently have, and being conscious of that. So we started doing this mid 2022, and since then, at the end of 2023, the electric managed account was already up over 8.8% from where it was when we started this investment journey. So before I move on to the 2024 projects overview, I know it was a lot of numbers, a lot of financial information. Just wanted to pause and see if anyone in the audience had any specific questions about the budget or our borrowing, or if there were any questions submitted online. Okay, seeing none and hearing none, I'm gonna pass the presentation over to Chad, and he'll, oh, yeah, go ahead.
One of your sheets had meters and infrared cameras. Could you elaborate on that, please?
Sure. So that was a capital project purchase. So the meters are just for our regular electric meters that we purchase for your home. We just have to restock those. If we're building new projects like Bennett's Court's going to take 18 of our stock. And then an infrared camera is something that the electric department uses, where they take the camera and they look at the lines. And if they see hot spots, it could indicate a problem.
Not for traffic.
No, it is not. It's for the electric department. Good question, though.
You can't trust government, you know.
Any other questions? Okay, great. Turn it over to Chad to talk about the Broad Street utility project. This one's the clicker. And that's-
Infrared. This, alright. That's the speedometer there.
Yeah.
Alright. Thank you. Thank you, Jamie. I'm Chad Camburn. I'm the borough engineer from Van Cleef Engineering, and I'll be discussing the Broad Street and North Main Street utility replacement project. Maybe.
Mhm. You might have to click the.
I broke it already. There we go. Let's see button.
Yes, and if it doesn't, then just, she can do it for you.
Okay, thank you. So this project's been in discussion for over 10 years now, believe it or not. It originally came to my attention when a sinkhole opened up on West Broad Street, roughly in the area of Vinnie's, and you probably have seen the barrel that's been out there for a decade now. The reason that hasn't been fixed yet is because it's a PennDOT road, and PennDOT has taken the opinion or the position that while they own the surface of the road, all the utilities under the road are not their responsibility. So they're saying all the storm sewer within the PennDOT road is the borough's responsibility. So in investigating that sinkhole, as well as I'm sure you've seen the rutting on East Broad, particularly above the storm sewer infrastructure, a lot of rutting on that road. The borough, again, 10 years ago or so, has done inspections through video cameras, through a number of different types of investigating. And we've identified that pretty much the entire storm system underneath this road is in terrible shape. And while you haven't seen all the problems, believe me, there's a lot of problems. It's mostly corrugated metal pipe. It's mostly rusted. A lot of it's corroded. Some of it you've seen over time has been patchwork together. So really, it's a ticking time bomb as far as when this road is going to fail. The borough's reached out to PennDOT many times over the past years to have this fixed. This is a major corridor for large trucks, between the Turnpike and 309. And there was no point in fixing the road until the storm sewers, fixed as well. So we've been talking about this for quite a while. In addition, the borough is constantly looking at improving the sanitary sewer infrastructure. The majority of the sanitary sewer is made of clay pipe. It's been around for many, many years. And as we like to say, there's two types of clay pipe. Larry's heard this a number of times. The type of clay pipe that's cracked and the type that's going to crack. And unfortunately, when the pipe's cracked, you get a lot of stormwater and groundwater into the sanitary sewer system. And the pipes haven't been designed or sized for stormwater. They're sized for sanitary sewer. In addition to that, that's essentially clean water that's getting into the sanitary sewer system that goes to the treatment plant that needs to be treated. The treatment plant doesn't know the difference between stormwater and sanitary water, so it needs to be treated regardless. And there's a substantial cost associated with that. So it's not unique to Hatfield Borough. It's a lot of my work is sanitary sewer work because it's a problem throughout the country. But taking proactive steps, the borough is constantly looking at improving the infrastructure over time because it is quite costly. And we decided it makes sense while we can potentially get grant funds and while the borough is borrowing money to try and include all this at the same time. That way, the funding's all secured at the same time. And really the impact to the community is only done at one point in time. So in all, it made a lot of sense to do it that way. In addition, you'll see the blue line here, the light blue line. We've reached out to the North Penn Water Authority, knowing that we're going to have the road impacted for quite a while, several months this will take. And we said, hey, while we're doing this project, is there a potential for cost sharing? PennDOT's going to make us repave the majority of the road because they don't like just trenches repaved. They like, full lane widths repaved. We said, while we're having this impact on the community, is there any work that you would like to do as well? And they came back and said, yes, as a matter of fact, we're looking to replace the water as well. So they decided to ride along with our contract. This will be a single contract that will include all of West Broad and East Broad, from Talmonton Ave to North Market. That'll be the storm sewer. The North Penn Water Authority will be replacing all their water infrastructure from Talmonton to Main Street. And the borough will be replacing both the storm sewer and sanitary sewer system from Broad Street to the Borough Hatfield Township line. And that's what this project entails. In all, West Broad Street will be replacing roughly 2,700 feet of storm pipe and 22 structures. In East Broad, we'll be replacing 1,200 lineal feet of storm pipe and 11 structures. In North Main Street, 55 feet of storm pipe and 2 structures, and in North Main Street Sanitary, 1,300 feet of sanitary sewer main and 9 manholes. In addition to that, we'll be replacing all the laterals within the right-of-way on North Main Street, the sanitary laterals. And the borough will be reaching out to all the property owners along North Main Street to see if any of the residents or businesses would be interested in riding along with the contract to have their private sewers replaced as well. It's a program we've done a number of times. Give me a second, please. We've done a number of times and it works very well. The benefit to the homeowners or the property owners is that you don't need to find your own contractors. You'll have the maintenance and security that the borough will get in their contract, and it will be publicly bid. So you'll have essentially all the hassle will be handled by us. You won't have to handle the hassle. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yes, I've heard that if you find you have a cracked sewer line, there's an option, you can put like a rubber balloon in there as opposed to replacing the whole sewer line. It's like a liner.
Yeah.
Is that true?
That's one option. It's not a preferred option for a number of reasons. We've done that in the past, and depending on the manufacturer of the liner, depending on the contractor, again, that'll be, low bid, low responsible bid. We've had problems in the past where the liners have actually unraveled, and many years ago, it actually happened here in the borough where it unraveled and created a clog in the main, and we were out here all hours of the night trying to fix that problem. So it is good technology. It works, but it's a Band-Aid. The real fix is to replace it if you can, if you have the funding. And in this case, we do have some funding for it, so we're going that route. That's a great question, though. What did I do? Okay. Okay. There we go. So to improve efficiency and reduce the timing of this overall contract, we expected it will be taking several months to do this. It's a lot of work, as you can imagine. PennDOT's allowed us to install a detour, which again, it will help the efficiency of the contractor getting the work done. We understand it is a inconvenience to the community. Keep in mind certainly that the roads will always be open to local traffic. So even though the detour signs will be up and it will be officially detoured, that is primarily for through traffic, and of course we would like local traffic to find their way around the work area as much as possible. The work that is being done will be across the full width of the road. You have the storm pipes and the water lines are going across the road, so there will be times that you won't be able to get across. But rest assured, residents will be able to get to their homes. Businesses, you'll be able to get to your businesses. This is a detour plan and a detour route that will be signed. Again, it'll be primarily for the traffic that doesn't know their way around. Local traffic, I'm sure everybody here, that you know how to get around. Take the easiest path to get to where you need to go. Yep, of course. Is there a way to zoom in on this or no?
You have to like go out and slide it.
Okay. I'm not going to try to zoom. What I'll do is this map here, this shows the work area in red up here. That would be the West Broad Street area from Talmadge Ave to Main Street. So the detour around there, see it either. The detour around there will be Welsh Road, and this will be going east on Broad Street, Welsh Road to Orvilla, and then to Main Street. So this will be South Main. And again, that'll be the designated route. You can find your way around any way that you prefer. It has to be these roads because any detour of PennDOT roads has to be on PennDOT roads. You can't detour a state road onto local roads. So that's why you see it going in this path. When we get to East Broad, the detour again heading east would be down South Main to Orvilla. and then to Bethlehem Pike, 309. And then back down Unionville Pike. So a long route, unfortunately, but again, those are the state roads that we're allowed to detour on. Sure.
We planned road between the turnpike and the 309. When's that, plan gonna be complete so the trucks don't come through Hatfield and screw up the roads anymore?
Yeah, another great question. Unfortunately, I'm not involved in that project. I wish I had answers for you. Not soon enough, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure the borough manager can get answers from the traffic engineer that, you know, may have a better understanding than I do.
So is the construction going all the way down Main Street to Unionville?
No, the construction will be from on Broad Street from Talmonton Avenue to Market Street, and that's where it'll stop. And then on Main Street, it'll be North Main Street, so it'll be from Broad Street to the municipal line. That answer your question? Let me go back to the map.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You mentioned several months for this project. Do you have a reasonable estimate as to how many months?
Yeah, give me a couple slides. I'll get there in a couple slides.
So the blue line comes down and stops, what road is that stopping?
That's Talmonton Ave. And that's Main Street there.
That's Main Street.
And that blue line
That's
represents the
Cal
water.
Path, correct?
Correct.
That's what it is, Calpath.
Yes, CalPath once you get out of the borough.
So instead, so that's gonna kill all the businesses in the town pretty much. Including mine again. Because everything's gonna go down Orville Road instead and go out to 309. And it's gonna destroy us again. Like doing the bridge in front of my building did. Because nobody's gonna be going down that way anymore.
I'll answer that by saying it's a necessary project.
I understand it's necessary. I don't disagree with that 100%. It has to be done. I get it. But detouring it all the way over to Orville Road is ridiculous. It doesn't need to go all the way over to Orville Road. Because they could come right back down Cowpath Road and then come down Lincoln Avenue and go right back out to the road again.
So you're gonna detour the trucks down a no trucks road,
All the trucks come down that road anyway.
but the detour has to be set up to accommodate the CDL vehicles, the trucks.
And I
That's
understand
why
that.
it has to
So-
be maintained on PennDOT roads.
Okay, but it doesn't stop, doesn't that detour stop at Cowpath Road?
Go back to that. Which section are you talking about? West Broad?
Right, so when it comes down 40-foot road, okay?
Mhm.
It stops at Cowpath Road, right? That's the detour ends right there, correct?
Correct. It'll go down.
So why aren't they just coming down Orvilla, coming down Orvilla and then having come down through town? And then go down, they don't even have to come down Lincoln, they can go down the, down Market around 40-foot.
Because it has to go on a state road. And
Cowpath's the state road.
well, not North Main. North Main is not a state road. That's a borough road. So this project has gone through many, many months of reviews through PennDOT. And this is ultimately the detour route that they approved. We have to get HOP permit, highway occupancy permits from PennDOT. And
Kill all the businesses in this town, is what it's gonna do. Gonna murder us. Again,
there was one more detour. So that's when North Main Street is being worked on. The detour will be down South Main. Detour will be Fairground Road. Down to Elroy Road. And then West Broad Street. So that'll be the detour while North Main Street's being worked on. So, as you can imagine, there's gonna be a substantial cost associated with this. In 2019, we identified some grant opportunities that Jamie had previously mentioned. Those two grants that we reached out for were the PA Small Water and Sewer Grant and the H2O PA grant. Both of those are funded by the Commonwealth Financing Authority. And at that time, we made a request based on the estimated cost of the project in 2019. And with the strong support of Representative Malagary, we were able to receive $1.1 million in grant funding. So that's represented here. And again, that was the full amount that we requested. So that was a wonderful win for the borough. So we all know what happened in 2019 and 2020, COVID hit, and there was a number of other situations that happened in the southern states, primarily Texas, that significantly increased the cost of construction and materials. So as we were proceeding along through the development of the plans and the bid documents, we went through that process, and through a number of other contracts, we realized, okay, the original funding for 2019 may not be enough anymore. So we reevaluated the construction cost, and we ultimately determined we needed more money. So the opportunity arose in 2022 for additional funding, and this is what's called the ARPA funding. It's federal funding in this case. While it's still through the Commonwealth Financing Authority, it's federal funding. We again reached out for additional funding, and again, with the help of Representative Malagary and Senator Collette, we were able to secure an additional $800,000. So in all, the borough received almost $2 million in grant funding for this roughly $3 million project. That's substantial. So if you wonder why is it taking 10 years? Well, you have the coordination with North Penn Water Authority, you have the coordination with PennDOT, and you have 2 rounds of funding. Certainly it made sense to request the additional funding. And that's what got us to today. That's why we're looking to work on this project in 2024. So to the gentleman's questions about timing. I just mentioned that slightly, why are we in 2024? Well, I just mentioned that. At this point, we're waiting on the PennDOT HOP. Okay, we've resubmitted recently. We've had a number of discussions with them. They are fast tracking our application at this point. Fast tracking meaning it's taken many, many months, but at this point they said, all right, we're ready to go. We're ready to issue this permit. So there's a lot of information on this slide. We really drill down to the nitty gritty on all the, I'll say, items or milestones that will impact the overall schedule. We're hoping to advertise the end of this month. Okay. The advertising and bidding process usually takes about a month or so. Okay, we'll have a mandatory pre-bid meeting, but we usually give the contractors a month to go through all the documents, ask their questions, make sure we have good bids. So we anticipate the award vote will be middle of July. We anticipate construction starting end of September. And again, it takes a while to go through all the bidding documents, to secure the contractor's documents, and ultimately they need to submit shop drawings and order materials. It takes a while for them to get their supplies. And then we're looking to have the project complete by roughly the end of June of next year. PennDOT typically has a moratorium on any work in the roads in the wintertime. We're working with them to try to get that lifted for this project, again, for the efficiency of the project. The borough does not have a moratorium, so if we get into a situation where, construction needs to proceed through winter, the contractor can certainly work on North Main Street at that time. But roughly, we're looking at end of June is our anticipated completion time. I'm sure you have more questions.
So it'll be in effect for that entire period?
No, the detours will be in effect during the time of work that each segment is being worked on. So there won't be a need for a detour on West Broad Street, for example, when West Broad Street is completed. Okay. So at this point, I'm going to pass it on to Steve, and I believe we'll be taking the rest of the questions after Steve's presentation.
There's even more detailed breakdown as to which parts will be affected at which time.
We don't know that. That'll be up to the contractor. Okay. Again, it'll depend on their supply of materials and the way that they believe that they can work most efficiently. And without having it awarded yet, we don't know what that answer is going to be.
Thank
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I gotta say, I'm not used to having this many people here for one of these, so bear with me.
And let's be real, I know everybody's really here for my presentation. It's not all this other stuff. So I'll get right into it. Like we do every year, our ADA curb ramp replacement project is something mandatory that we have to do to have an ADA plan for the state. These are just two pictures of two of the ramps that are getting done this year. They're at the Hatfield Post Office and directly across the street. There's an additional one that we're doing down North Main Street at West School Street in North Main. There's actually two more that we should be doing, but the reason we're not is because there's sewer laterals that run under those ramps. And since this is on North Main and in conjunction with what Chad was talking about, if we were to replace the ramps now, when they do the sewer laterals, they would be ripping up the ramps again. Total waste of money. We're including that in that project, so it all gets done at once. And along with the ADA, every year we try to do our mill and overlay. This year, we're going to be doing West School Street, Jean, Jade, and June. In conjunction with North Wayne Avenue getting done just a few years ago, getting these roads done will kind of put a finishing touch on this whole neighborhood with all new ADA ramps, all new paving. So we can check this whole neighborhood off our box. Also, I'll get into the storm sewer as well, but that's kind of included with this whole area as well. So getting into general utility projects. First, I'll talk about the picture on the right. That's just a newer inlet frame that we've been installing throughout town. This is actually a picture in the Heather Meadows community. We had 21 inlet frames that we had identified as just completely deteriorating, totally unsafe, to be honest with you. So we identified these. We budgeted money to start getting in there and replacing all of them. Last year, we replaced, I keep looking at my notes, I don't have this memorized, 15 frames in the neighborhood, leaving us 6 that we had to do in this year. As of today, we only have 2 left that we have to do to complete that whole project. The picture on the left is a storm sewer crossing that we actually completed this year. It's one of 2 that is on the schedule for this year. This one is on June Drive. We wanted to obviously get this pipe replaced prior to the paving. Once again, makes sense. And it's kind of like going in with what Chad was talking about with the old deteriorating metal pipes. This one was rusted out. There was no bottom to it, causing, you know, a little bit of a sink right there. So we replace that with plastic pipe. We'll get, I'll be long gone before anybody has to worry about that pipe. And so everybody else, no offense. It's a 100-year warranty on the pipe. So listen, all right, I'm being honest. With the utilities, it's also a big part for us is obviously the electric system. I take a lot of pride in our electric system and the way it operates. We have been aggressively over the past 2 years going after pole replacements, and there's good reason for it. The picture on the left is an example of the tag that gets put on when the pole inspections are done. Has the company name saying they inspected it and what year it was done. Great for reference for us so we can keep track of when it was done, when it has to be done again. We own 346 poles in town. Not all poles are ours. There's a share of poles between Hatfield Borough, PP&L has some, and Verizon has some. Verizon has 141 of them. In 2023, we inspected 70 poles and we replaced 4. In 2024, we're going to be inspecting 200 poles and we're going to be about 10 poles to replace. We're going to continue inspecting, not just for 2025, but continually years going on. But, you know, we're going to do the remaining 76 poles in 2025. I don't know how many we're going to replace in 2025. We're going to see how the inspections come back from this year. That'll kind of determine our number. Yes, ma'am.
What's the metal things that?
Great question. Those are Verizon poles. Kind of like Chad was talking about with the inflatable balloon inside a pipe, they're Band-Aids. They're identifying that the pole has rot on the base. So they drive the steel post down, band it to the pole, and they might get 5 years, 10 years out of that. And it's still going to end up falling down. You had one right in front of your house. And what happened? They put a new pole in.
Yeah, but the old pole, the damage is up there. They put the Band-Aid down here.
I understand. I don't particularly like them because for the cost of what you pay to put one of them in, and they also do like a fiberglass wrap on some of them too. All it is just a Band-Aid. So for the cost that it costs to put them in, honestly, you're better off just replacing the pole. You're gonna get 30, 40 years out of that pole now. Do you have a question, sir?
You have a map where you're doing the J, June, and.
The paving?
Yeah.
Yes,
Is there any reason that weight was left off that?
because Wayne was done a couple years ago.
Oh,
Yeah. So that this paving these roads here just finishes that whole neighborhood off. So we can move on. Yes, sir.
They put a new pole in about 2 foot away from the other pole. I have an underground service.
We're gonna disconnect your service. Don't worry about it. You don't, no, you don't need electric.
How they gonna support, how they gonna support the conduit? Was about 2 foot away from the pole.
So we're gonna have to handle that ourselves. We have to dig up the concrete. We have to well, you're gonna get an outage notice. It's not even scheduled, so don't worry. I'll be in communication with you when that happens, but we will repipe the conduit to the new pole, run all new wire, and we'll take care of it. Or I can just cut your electric off completely. I mean,
I got a generator.
so like I said, this is a great example. On the right is a pole that wasn't inspected, just fell down. It was a beautiful day and just fell over. Obviously, it's not going to fall over for a while unless it gets hit by a truck. Segue. 2 poles that were hit by vehicles that were taken out. One of these caused a borough-wide outage. The other one was just a third of the town. But these are things we can't prevent. Rotting poles are things we can prevent and be aware of and be proactive with it. And that's what we're trying to do. Any questions about utilities? Come on, really? Only 2? All right, fine. Nothing online, Katie? I will turn it back over to Jamie for communications.
Great, thank you, Steve. Just real quick, want to go through some communications that are going on in Hatfield Borough, some things that we're doing before we turn it over for the remainder of the evening to Mr. Barth. So Hatfield Borough has e-billing, utility billing. If you can enjoy the flexibility of accessing your bills anytime, anywhere. Email billing offers instant delivery and is eco-friendly choice that helps Borough cut costs on printing and postage. It ultimately keeps expenses low. So if you're interested in receiving your sewer bill or your electric bill in a more timely fashion, please just contact David in the utility department or email utilitybilling@hatfieldborough.com and we'd be happy to set that up for you. Also, the information on your electric and sewer bill, if you turn over the back of it, it has the e-billing campaign on there. So you'll be able to find that information on the back of your bill to contact David. Next, just want to highlight our 2024 events. Hatfield Borough puts on a tremendous amount of great events, and I can't talk highly enough about the work that staff puts into those. We have our Earth Day event, Founders Day event, Movie in the Park, Fall Fest and Car Show, Halloween Happy, and then we work with Grace Lutheran Church at the community tree lighting. So our next event is our Founders Day event. That's going to be on Saturday, June 15th from 12 to 4 p.m. at Centennial Park on Cherry Street. If you're looking for ways to hear about, learn about Hatfield Borough, we just put out our new edition of the Borough Informer this spring. You should have received it in your mailboxes mid-April. You can follow us on any of these social media platforms. Check out the Borough website. As always, email admin@hatfieldborough.com. And if you're looking to be alerted, informed, we partner with Montgomery County Department of Public Safety. They offer a program called Ready Monco. What Ready Monco is you can sign up for text alerts, email alerts, or phone calls that come directly from Hatfield Borough during emergencies. If it's a power outage, storm, anything that's going on, road closures, we'll send out an alert through Ready Monco. You receive those directly through email, phone, or text. always like to just include a slide with our state and county elected officials. Here's their contact information. They're great, always willing to help. We're really blessed in the Montgomery County, especially in Hatfield Borough area with our senator and representative and our county commissioners. So if you ever need to get in touch with them, here's their contact information. We can also connect you through the Hatfield Borough office. And lastly, I wouldn't be doing justice if I didn't highlight the excellent staff that we have here at Hatfield Borough. Anyone who has come to the borough office or called on the phone knows that they get great service by all these individuals. And yeah, just feel free to call us, ask us any questions at any time. Thank you. I appreciate that. They're awesome.
They are.
They make my job easy. They're great. Yes. Sure. Yep.
What's the participation with the online billing?
With the billing,
With the email billing?
with the email billing. So since we put out the news, yes, sure. Since we put out the newsletter, I think within the first week of the newsletter, I believe David said it was up to 40, which I know isn't a lot. Yes, but it was a jump within the first week of the newsletter
And you say there's a notice on the bill,
on the utility
is
bill.
it in red ink?
It's in black on the back.
So it's in red ink. They'll read it.
We will take that under advisement. I will talk when we order our electric bills next time. If we can print in black, it's through a company. So I don't know if that's an additional cost. I will ask, but if we can do it, we will do it.
They'll read red.
Yes,
Like they're getting cut off or something.
yes, yes. There is, that picture that was on here is on the back with information to how to sign up for that. So we do appreciate you bringing that to our attention. You brought that up at a council meeting. Yes, yeah.
I can lost my keys.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate that. Oh, okay, yeah. Oh, do you know how to, are they unmuted? I don't hear it.
The other can talk.
Wait there. Muted.
If you're online and you're gonna ask a question, feel free to ask that question, or you can put it in the chat. Yeah. Ooh. Okay, well, we'll move forward. If someone likes to ask in the chat, that's fine. Katie, you can monitor that. I know most of you are here this evening to listen to Steve Barth. He's gonna come up and talk about the revitalization project that we're working on at Hatfield Borough, talk about the community survey results. So, Steve, come on up.
You're welcome.
I didn't get applause.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Jamie. The applause was for Jamie. So thank you, everyone, for coming this evening. I appreciate that. My name is Steve Barth. I work for Barth Consulting Group, and my company helps municipalities kind of chart and realize their dreams. And so one of the things we've been working here with Hatfield for a brief amount of time. And the one thing, just before I start this, I've been going around trying to meet with business owners and residents, and you have a very charming community, and you should be very proud of this. And like, not only here in the office, but just throughout town, like, people love Hatfield. So I'm very honored to be able to work on behalf of Borough Council and with Jamie to help you guys chart your future and actually to facilitate that. So my company, what I do is I help different municipalities help them revitalize and create vibrant downtowns. And it's a complicated job from really a high altitude level. And it involves, think about the Matrix 3D. I mean, there's a lot involved in this. But some of the core things that I help communities do, and I work with Lansdale, Sellersville, I've worked with Percy Borough, New Hope, is to help them kind of see things in a different and unique way. But it's really working with you, the residents and businesses. Like, I'm here to facilitate your aspirations for the community. So I will help you shape and guide those goals. And then, I have a lot of contacts to help you actually make these things happen. So, all sorts of things occur with this. It's like, how do you fund these projects? The engineer was talking about getting, 2/3 of your project funded through grants. Public engagement, that's like this evening. We have the surveys, which I'll talk about in a second. Small business consulting, like part of my role is to help you recruit new businesses, but also to help your existing ones flourish and thrive. And then any kind of development projects, and whether that's housing or it's, repurposing old factories. Those are projects that I typically help a community with. So in my role, I've been doing this since, my early career, I worked directly with large corporations doing their annual reports, doing visioning and branding. And then that led to this kind of work direct from municipalities. And since 2010, we've created over 2,500 jobs. It's hundreds of millions of new development. It's opened over 400 new businesses. So we have a lot of experience doing this. And probably the trickiest piece of this is navigating, municipal zoning codes. I work with businesses, help them on their business plan, help them finance the projects, help them on their marketing, help them launch their career and expand their businesses. So now this part is all about you. So, you have this wonderful, charming community. And so some of, what we're talking about is like branding your town as a vibrant little town. I mean, you're surrounded kind of like a donut by Hatfield Township. So we sent out these community surveys. And so my role is not really to do what I want to do for your town, but what you want for your town. And then to help kind of guide you and steer things and bring people here to actually achieve those goals. Excuse me. So the first thing is how do people overall rate the community? So 4 out of 5, very good. And in terms of the survey, we had about a 20% response. It was, I think, about 289 or 290 out of 1,500 homes. So a 10% response is considered good. So some of the things just kind of interesting. How long have you lived in the borough? People love this town, so they've lived here a long time. Do you rent or own? Well, most of the people that filled out the survey own their properties, but I think roughly 50% of the households are renters. Where do you work? Now, this was kind of interesting on a couple levels. When Jamie was talking about financing, it's over 40% of residents are retired. And so it creates a unique opportunity, because what's naturally going to happen, retired people typically are not paying earned income taxes. And so what will happen as new families are buying those homes, suddenly you're going to get money just because of the natural turnover of those properties. Where do people shop? So this was really kind of interesting also. And one of the things, online, very large segment, and you'll see this other slide, but where else are they shopping around here? Montgomeryville, the Hatfield Township, Montgomery, or Souderton. But one of the things that's interesting here is a lot of our businesses close early. So we're training our residents to shop outside of our community. A lot of the stores close at noon or 2 o'clock. So just you think of the behavior pattern of that, that's a simple, easy fix to sort of help you. What percent of shopping is done online? Now, this was interesting with just talking in the office here, the younger people, not me, the percentage is much higher. And this is really a post-pandemic thing. Like, online shopping was growing pre-pandemic, but then the pandemic forced people to do this. And this trend is going to continue. So when I work with new businesses opening, I try to help them develop multiple revenue streams. And so one of those things would be having some kind of online presence. Now, one of the reasons why the borough hired me, and this is a unique opportunity for you, is that the borough entered into a 20-year lease with SEPTA for the train station. And so the way this works, SEPTA will always own the train station. And what they prefer is that the municipalities will rent the buildings, but then in turn, the municipality, us, the borough, can sublease it to a desired tenant. And so I've worked with SEPTA for over 14 years. I work with their executive leadership. And they've been a wonderful partner. And the parcel, our train station, sits on a 1.7 acre parcel, includes the station, and there's a pole barn next to it. So in our response, like the number one thing is that people wanted either some kind of food or brewery. And I've probably taken more than a dozen people through the property already. So the station itself is kind of, Salters had been there for a while, and this is just kind of like a rough sketch. If you turned it into a restaurant, there's plenty of space for outside seating. The inside of the station is actually in very good condition. But whoever were to take on this lease, and Borough Council will be the one that approves a new tenant, there are interior renovations that have to occur. So some of the people that I've brought through so far, there've been a couple of breweries, distillery, winery, coffee shop, cafe, bakeries, some retail type stores, an electronic bike place, an office building, a local sort of religious group. So you as the community council will, act as your representative, will, kind of decide who you want. And I would like to thank Steve and his crew. One of the first people we took through the building, it was really in pretty rough condition. And I show a lot of properties. And what you want when somebody walks into a building, you want them to start dreaming about, I'm putting my counter over here, I'm putting, the bathrooms there. And what happened on this first visit, people were kind of horrified. And so Steve and his crew immediately went out, they cleaned it up, and it's a very clean looking space. And they cleaned it up to a level where it's hard to know who's going to take it yet. But when people are in there now, they're talking about those kinds of things like, oh, I'm going to put my display racks here. So thank you, Steve, for that. So one of the things, we were asking, okay, if it's food or retail or entertainment, like part of the survey is like, okay, well, what would you like to see? And this was such a huge range. Went from things like Chipotle, KFC, a bowling alley, what was the, to like, small little retail things. I mean, my sense for you, and I'll show you this other picture, is the space, essentially our downtown is like a pyramid or a triangle, and the station sits as the capstone. And so really you want it to be something that is a benefit to the whole community, draws people to the downtown, and acts as a catalyst for the rest of the downtown to kind of grow. So how would you rate the borough's downtown as it is? So it's kind of an average, in the middle. Now here again, this is some of the thing is the businesses aren't open that much. So if I'm working and I come home, everything's pretty much closed. One of the things that the borough has a HEROC committee, which is their revitalization committee. And so they're working on some branding initiatives about creating some downtown banners. So that's under development. But part of what we want is like, you want people to have a sense of place, not so much us, the residents, but the people visiting who will be shopping here and going to restaurants and things. And so part of that you need is, enhancing the charm that you already have. One of the questions from one of the residents, and this will come up, like you have really gorgeous buildings here. And some of them are in multiple levels of repair. So one of the things that happens as you start, like in Sellersville, the work that I'm doing there is that a lot of it's on their main street. But I've been going individually to the property owners and, talking to them about renovating their buildings. And what's nice here is you have a facade grant program where people can get some funding to do some, permanent things on their buildings. So that's a great tool that most towns don't have. But the result of this is, and it happens slowly, like, the town doesn't just overnight change. But in Sellersville, now all of a sudden there's a critical mass. You have more properties that are fixed up than there were those that were sort of run down. How often do you walk downtown? Now, the one that strikes me is never. You have a very walkable downtown, anywhere in, it's a flat community. So people should be walking around every night, but you need something to do. So like coming in this evening, the ice cream place was jammed, but that's the sort of place that draws like kids and neighborhood people. How would you rate downtown parking? Now this I think is sort of funny that, you have tons of parking here. And I think some of it's not defined. So like some little shops by the, say where the laundromat is. So it's a little tighter there, but there is on-street parking. The signs are older, so I think replacing the signs, and I think even striping that, so that'll slow people down driving through town. And then the other great thing that's occurred is, by leasing the SEPTA land, there's like over 150 parking spaces there. So that creates an opportunity for us that the Santucci's property, they would have built an inside dining space at the time, but they were required to have a certain amount of parking spaces. So it's just basically a grab and go place where if you can utilize the SEPTA parking as our municipal parking, then you can waive downtown parking requirements. And that's how you can really make things happen. Would you like to see more retail restaurants? So overwhelmingly 90% of everybody said yes. So that gives me good marching orders. Now this, what type of development would you like to see downtown? Now you don't have a lot of open available land. So in some ways that's good because it kind of protects the community is pretty much going to be what it is today. And what I find in a lot of communities, I give an older community, like people don't like change, or if there's change, it's kind of subtle and, it's more upgrading. So one of the number one thing was like restoring older homes. Well, how do you encourage people to do that? One of the things that happened here, a lot of those older homes have been carved up into apartment buildings. So one of the other things that we're doing is and I'll show you the next slide, is you can create like zoning and codes that sort of, controls that. And then you can create incentives for people to restore these older properties. So like in Hatfield Borough, we reduced the permit fees 50%. And it was really to help. We had some really large housing developments. But what it actually did for the residents, all the residents started fixing up their porches and doing all kinds of things. And the council was concerned at first that, well, if we cut permits 50%, that's part of our revenue. And what actually happened, cutting it in half actually doubled the revenue. So there's little things like that that you can do. Infill on empty lots. I mean, there's a few small parcels where you could maybe do something here. If there was new housing, the one woman I met had built a new single family home. The multi-family homes and then apartments. And a resident asked me about apartments. So the one thing, you will never have a large, multi-story, big block apartment building here. There's no space for it. And, there are some like building height restrictions and things. So I think if that's a concern, I can't see anywhere where that could occur. Do you feel it's important to retain the architectural character? So that was like over 90% also. So, I mean, you have some buildings that were designed by this famous architect, Milton Bean, like where the nursing home is. That is a gorgeous building. And I mean, it's really stunning. And so I think accentuating those buildings, when Jamie was talking about the valuations of properties. So some of the things that I do that will help all of you is the more we upgrade the town, the more it increases your property values. And so what that does, like on paper, when I was working in Percy, The median home value when I started there was 265,000. The median home value when I left was 455. So all of that is net worth to residents. So
The lower time period.
that was a 10-year period,
Ending when
2022.
all the housing prices went through.
It still occurred. So it
No,
was
I
over a
understand,
10-year
but
period.
That's part of the point though. I mean, it ended in 2022, all the house values went up through the roof in 2022.
Well, it was over a 10-year period they
I
went up. So that
understand.
wasn't just like it wasn't a result of the pandemic that occurred. It was 10 years was building 415 new homes.
No, and
So it
I
wasn't,
get it.
so, okay. How do you receive information? Jamie was talking to you about that before, and I think there's things that we can do, all of these things, we can grow social media. Like I've been doing some of these Instagram reels, which get like a very high response rate to those. Here, I think this was an article just about the beginning part of this, creating the vision for a downtown. And this is your town. So, really what we're trying to do is you're having me as your conduit to make this happen. One of the things that we've done is the borough is going to be hiring the Montgomery County Planning Commission, and Jamie and I are meeting with them next week. And the advantage of working with them is all these sort of things that you've outlined you would like, they help us write the codes that actually will implement those things. So they can review our existing codes and they can help us amend codes or create like zoning overlays, which is something that I'd like to try to do. How often you visit Borough Hall? Well, everybody's here tonight, so I guess we're gonna have to change this chart, but it is open to the public all year long. And so we do encourage you to come to the council meetings and other committee meetings. So one of the things that people downstairs, there is a community room. So if you're part of Boy Scouts or Rotary groups or any of those things, that group space is available to residents or organizations. Do you attend council meetings? So even though we're live streaming this, I would encourage people to come and you can talk to our elected officials and borough staff. And part of this is I hope this process engages everybody because it's all of us working together. It's not me, it's not Jamie, it's not council, it's all of us working on this together. Are you aware that council meetings are live streamed? Well, hopefully we're looking good on camera tonight, but yes, they are. Now, here is one of the things Jamie alluded to earlier. How do you pay your bills? And you can see, people traditionally are paying by check. Would people like to have the automatic bill pay? So that overall, yes. And I would encourage you to do that. It's easy for you and them. Now, this was a question I think that had come up before, and it was like 45 to 55%. So some people want multiple haulers, so that I think is a discussion for another day, but you can see what the community thought. If in fact, taxes were to be raised, people, oh, and there's a typo, sorry about that. How would you want them? One lump sum? Some communities, one of the towns that I've worked with, they hadn't raised taxes for 50 years. So what happens, like no elected official wants to say we're raising taxes, but there's a cost of living increase every year. So what happens, they're like fixed expenses that we have, like a police budget. And so the police typically get a 5% raise every year. So if you don't raise taxes, and this is where everybody here wanted a gradual incremental rate increase, like it's so subtle, like I think it's affordable for people, and I pay taxes too. But I would rather have it as a small little bit rather than one giant thing, so. Go ahead.
I'm not allowed to talk.
Yes,
I
please.
think the major concern is that a great majority of the people, as you indicated, were retired and they have to pay school taxes.
Correct.
which is a big lump.
Right.
And they they do see the need for other people, but as a retiree, they're like, "Oh," it's getting higher and higher and higher as the years go by. So that's one situation that is kind of contradictory.
Right. So the young woman in the front row was asking about retirees,
Retiree.
oh, school district taxes. So one of the things, part of real estate taxes in every community, the largest portion of your tax bill is generally your school district. And I would say it generally averages in any community 70 to 80%. And so a lot of times people, like I thought that slide Jamie had showing that to everybody, because a lot of times like your tax bill might get paid through your mortgage or something, so you don't really see it broken out so much. And there again, like one of the things when I work for towns, like my guiding philosophy is about stewardship. Greatest good for the most amount of people for the longest amount of time. And so my children are grown, they're out of college, but I still have to pay school district tax also. And so part of that is just, you want a well-educated society. So even though it feels painful, like at some point, if you had children, somebody was paying your school taxes at that time. Now, this was an interesting one. How often do you use the parks? So this, you have some beautiful parks. Being outside is good, and there are a lot of young people in the community. Now, this was interesting. Which parks do you tend to use? So this gives us, you can see Centennial Park is highly used, but some of the other ones, like if we put other amenities, would more people use them? What kind of features would you like to see? So same sort of thing, like these kinds of requests, like there is grant funding for these sorts of projects. And one of the great advantages of bringing the county on board, the Planning Commission, is Montgomery County has this, they call it the Monco 2040 plan, and they have $2 million available every year for municipal projects. So one of the reasons that I like working with them, if they're helping us plan the community, it kind of puts you on a higher position to receive funds. When I was working in Collegeville, they got a couple $100,000 for a new park idea that I created for them. Hatboro, they, I think, have gotten like $450,000. So hopefully we're going to be saying the same thing. How often do you use the Liberty Bell Trail? It's kind of mixed. What things would you like on there? Trash cans, lighting, park benches. There are some solar lights there. This I just did kind of a sketch, like if you added more lighting, does it make it, people feel safer in the evening walking on there? But and what's interesting here, I see people all ages, kids on bikes, or people on e-bikes, people walking their dogs, young, old, people with baby carriages. Which events do you attend? So, some of the events are really large. Now this engineer was talking about, the broad main streets. And this is the problem in every town, is that, even though there are roads in our town, because they're owned by the state, there's some benefits and there's some negatives. And, so like they do control this access way, but I think it's, working with like bigger government takes a longer time, and it doesn't allow you to do things, like say the bypass route. How would you rate our own roads? Steve's doing a great job, so I thought that was a pretty good rating. And then this, I don't know how you use this little arrow.
Our roads and our best taken care of roads. Anywhere in the area.
Okay.
Our municipal people take care of our roads better than anybody.
Thank you.
No, and that's why we have a beautiful town. So thank you, Steve. The guys do an excellent job. So some of the things, we're talking about, like my role really is as a creative problem solver. So some of this news about the road construction, that gives me, some marching orders, like I'd need to help our businesses market in a different way and, do things to help drive people downtown. So the other thing that's going to be happening in the borough is we do have a high traffic count, which is good and bad. So it's good that there's a lot of people driving through town, but it's basically as a cut through from 309 to the turnpike. And it's a lot of heavy truck traffic. So this new bypass that they're planning to build above us, I don't know if anytime soon there's not a finished date to that, but all I can tell you when I was working with New Britain Borough, their borough was complaining, a lot of heavy traffic and stuff, and so they built this 202 Parkway. And what happened with that is it took all the traffic off of Old 202, which then adversely affected all the businesses that relied upon that. And that's what sort of Bob was saying. So then what we have to do is by promoting ourselves as a destination town, that's how you offset that. And I think, one of the things like social media is pretty free, but yet, like one of the things, my passion is photography and I use a lot of photo metaphors, but it's turning negatives into positives. So we know this event is coming. So what can we do to market the town and our businesses during that time period to give folks an incentive to come here? But just looking, so here's the train station here. So depending what you get there, if it's a restaurant or, just say it's a brewery or something, this is our Memorial Park, but they can have outside seating, can have other events there. Like that's a great anchor for us. Here at Santucci's, like if you could build a little dining space on the side of their building, that's a nice asset. You have the nursing home here. That's a big parcel, but man, that is a stunning building. You have hat tricks here, restaurant, bar, outside seating. You have a couple like the trolley stop here. You have free public municipal parking there. I think all of this space over to the right of the train station, that really can all be municipal parking. Some of these homes right here, like this is an apartment building, but some of this you could really have it so the first floors are like little specialty gift shops or things, and then they would be apartments over top of that. You have some really nice parks, like this park back here is like almost, like I was surprised to find that one day, actually. And then I think, what's nice along the downtown, you have those old street lamps there, so you can really create some charming attributes here. And then there's subtle things about, like building codes. We have a third-party building inspector. So I think some properties are in great shape, some are not. So, I think there are ways that we can look at how do you encourage people to maintain their properties better. And I think, really we are the captains of the ship. So, all of us are doing this together. So I encourage you to reach out to me or come to the office here. And so if you have any questions here in the room.
Yes,
sir.
Back to your survey about how people shop downtown. Can you name me retail businesses that don't involve food, drink, mechanical services for cars in the borough?
No, see,
There you go.
that's your opportunity.
There's nothing here to bring people in.
Right, well, that's why I'm here.
And that's why I'm here too. I got a suggestion.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, the train station. I like to see it put it made into a musical venue. We have high school kids with great voices. We got high school kids that are in theater. We have VOTEC people that can build stuff, staging. Trouble is with that train station, there's no bathrooms as we had talked before, they're in the basement, right? That kind of puts a limit on things. And if we could have like a dinner theater in there, but yet there's no kitchen equipment. But right down the road, right behind the firehouse, there is a caterer right there. And he could cater dinners in that area. All we have to do is get kids from the VOTEC to build staging in there, rent tables and chairs, hire the caterer, sell tickets for the shows. Maybe have, singing waiter and waitresses, something to bring the people in.
So I agree with that. Like whoever comes into that property, there is, and this is the part that I work with people, is like you need to have some resources to renovate that building. So whether that's $100,000 or $200,000, then you need, like in your business plan, a certain way revenue producing events or things. So in Sellersville, I have the Sellersville Theater. So they have 300 performances a year, draws over 60,000 people a year. So, you know, Bob has like musical entertainment at his property. Like, I don't know if it's a venue for young people, like high school kids, but
I think we should be taking that, I think we should be taking that old train station. And I think you should be breaking it into 3 businesses, is what you should be doing. You should put a coffee shop in there. I think that you have the capability of putting 3 different businesses in that. You really do. So then that's 3 different places making money in the same area. You have plenty of parking, obviously.
yep.
Okay, so that's not an issue. But put 3 businesses in there. Make 3 different things, you know? One, you could take the pole barn and make that one business. You can make the main area of the train station a coffee shop. Maybe get Manhattan Bagel to come in here, okay? That's something else that will draw people into the area, you know? Not just one business taking that whole place over. It's gonna be hard for one business to take that whole place. And then they gotta hope and pray they make enough money to survive, you know? Putting 3 businesses and not another pizza shop, for God's sake.
No
'Cause we don't need a
No
pizza
pizza,
shop.
no
in this
pizza.
neighborhood.
No pizza.
Because
I will move.
nobody's there ever.
Well-
Used to be an ice cream store there, it used to be a candy store. They can't make it there. Before that, it was a used car lot.
Santucci's is doing just fine.
Are they?
They are. They're really doing.
How's the pizza taste though?
Their pizza's good. It's
Where?
and it's different.
So are there any other questions? Anybody,
Katie, could you put that on now? I have an idea. Has anybody here ever heard of the Red Bull soapbox competition? Have you ever seen it? Very few people here. Could you put that online?
You guys,
Oh, please.
I don't know what it is.
so typically these soapbox derbies, we'd actually had one of those events in Percy, and they had kind of a hilly community. And so what they do, those types of events like draw outside people to the communities.
Lots of people.
And so one of the things that I would just say about community events, like a lot of communities try to revitalize their towns, thinking if they hold big events, it's going to fill empty buildings. It does not. It feels good. It draws a lot of people to your town, but it's not taking people through empty buildings every day. And the part of like these wonderful ideas, like you have to make them workable ideas. And so, you know, any renovation to any building, there's like building codes, there's zoning, there's engineering, there's architects, there's financing, it's navigating the whole municipal process. It is a very complicated process. And, you know, some communities I've been to, you know, one of the mayors, you know, thought they were from the insurance business, this was something they were doing before, but they were cold calling, you know, 100 people a day, thinking they were going to get somebody, like in the insurance business, like if you call 100 homes, you get 1 buyer or something. It is very complicated. The station building, like the biggest problem with the building is you can never own the building. So people investing in it, if you're putting a couple $100,000 in, it's not money you have, like if you're putting an addition on your house and you get that value back. So part of it is creating enough incentive for them to have a viable business there. Like, people have talked about putting a bowling alley there. Well, it's not big enough for a bowling alley.
You had one.
Right, but the thing is, like, it's being realistic, and then it's, it's courting people that will build sort of what the community wants. So, yes, sir.
They talk about running SIP to back up through from Lansdale all the way. What's the chances of that, or?
So the question was like, what are the chances of SEPTA reopening commuter lines? I would say 0. So while I think it's actually a wonderful idea, it's over $500 million to reactivate that line. And right, and so going northwards, a lot of those lines have been converted to rails to trails. So Coopersburg, Hellertown, so and I think above Quakertown, it's gone. So so there's no way you can actually do that. I mean, you could, but you'd have to rebuild it back. The other part is, like, if you look at the conditions of the tracks just in the borough, they're, atrocious. So it's replacing all of that track for high-speed travel. And then you have to put the overhead electric lines. So it seems unlikely. And I'd worked with the general manager of SEPTA, and this is when I was in Percy, and he lived in the borough. And we were looking at expanding the line. And so one of the things you can reverse back on the taxes is, where do people work? So what he was trying to determine is how many people worked in Philadelphia, like above Lansdale. And so it wasn't enough for them to even really look at that. Places like Lansdale line, pre-pandemic, there were 6,800 people a day that commuted from that station, third busiest one. The Warminster station, I think, was over like 4,000 a day. But now the ridership is down 50%, and that's where you see like the high remote workers here in the borough.
I have a question. So there's so much to do, like we're at such a jumping off point in the borough. And you've talked about like so many great ideas is moving forward as far as what we can do to like develop the borough and better it moving forward, as far as like applying for grants for improving parks and putting certain like codes in place to maybe prevent like further developing of houses like into apartments, like things like that that will like keep the borough nice, or rather like improve it, or like preserve it long term, and also attracting businesses in here that like the residents are going to want to use, businesses that will stay like open later, just making it a place where not only the residents can like enjoy more, and like we can spend our money here more rather than have to drive outside of the borough to spend it, but then people outside of the borough can come in and spend their money here. How, like, this is obviously going to be something that's going to be developing for a long time. How long are you going to be working with the borough, since you're such like an instrumental part of this plan? Do you have like how long is your contract with us, or is that predetermined?
I think the way it is now, I mean, all of this is, it's ongoing. So I think I'm going to be working with you for 3 years, and it could be more.
Okay.
A lot of the communities where like the biggest results have happened, it's the longer you work at it, the better it gets. And some of the reason why it takes a little while, like applying for these grants. So what happens, like, one, it's identifying the grants. 2, the state and county, they have grant writing cycles. So like typically the state grants, you sort of have to start filling them out in the summer. They award them, they write the letter of award like generally in the fall, and you don't get the money until the next year. Some of the things like changing zoning or codes, like that's a process that goes through, I think would go through our planning commission first, then it would go through, council, our lawyers. So municipal time and real time are two different things. And so all of it is really, it's like building a house, building a foundation. So it's looking at all of these little things that when they synchronize together, it creates the result you want. So it's like Rome wasn't built in a day. Well, Hatfield, I mean, you have a lot already here, so it's not like you're starting from zero. I mean, you're starting from high, but it's sort of like finding an antique Corvette in a barn. Like you guys are the 60s Corvette. It's just you need a little bit of like fine tuning. And so that's sort of what we're going to work on.
Yeah, it's clear it's gonna take a long time. I just hope that you are with us long enough that you can, see us
Me
through.
too, so yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Along with that question, are there any committees already created for that planning and,
Yes.
Yes, be right.
So the borough has a subcommittee of Borough Council. It's called HERAC, and it's like the Hatfield Economic Revitalization
okay,
Oversight Committee. And so what you do, that's a public meeting. You're welcome to attend. I think they would encourage new members.
okay.
And so that's where they kind of do like high level strategic thinking. And sort of what I always, like for me, one time I got this fortune cookie and the fortune said you can have whatever you want. So then first I was like, wow, that's incredible. I can have whatever I want. But then you have to decide, what do you want? And that's what HEROC and the Borough Council do for you. So I think all of you are part of this and it's a conduit to make all of this happen.
So it's already happening, as you said.
Well, this is like
This is part of it.
this is part of that process, yeah. And then I think when the County Planning Commission is here, they too will probably have public meetings to help refine and, shape some of these codes, because like one of the things I think challenge in any community, zoning didn't exist before the 1960s. So what happened, you have these older towns, and our town was built really around the railroad, and people just built stuff. And so then what happened in the 60s, they came and just labeled things as they were, not as what you would want them to be. And so like what I will try to help you with is like, if you create these zoning overlays, you can create incentives for people to build or renovate properties. Like you can let them, waive the parking requirements to encourage specialty shops downtown. You can, if you get facade grants for people to renovate the fronts of their buildings. So there's a lot of tools that we have to help people. Anybody else? Oh, yes, ma'am. Yes, please. Yeah.
We've been under revitalization for like over 20 years, but they were happy with the slow moving of it, but nothing was new to what you guys are talking about. And then I think we started to pick up about 10 years ago, very slowly, but it's been within 5 years. So Broad Street Theater was renovated and opened up, and then the Broad Street Pizza became more of an Italian restaurant with a bar, upscale, and then Northbound restaurant with a bar. And now in the past year, we have the Branch Creek Tap Room, which is, you use your credit card and you put it in and you get beer by the ounce. And the other tap room, which is Brass Collar at the train station, they took the
Freight house. Freight house. Yeah. Freight house.
Yeah, and that's opened up now, and Pepe Steak. So that's the cashier. So we've seen a lot of people now walking in town from other towns, parking and then walking around at all these places. And then we have a couple of new places coming in too. And I think what really kicked it off this year was Pepe Steak and Branch Creek, because Branch Creek Tap Room had a lot of events going on, music events. And I think that everything that you guys mentioned and what you mentioned when you showed all those photos is what's going to work. We have also Jesse's Barbecue, the other side of town. So it's those kind of places where families can walk to, or young people can walk to, because they're far. But a lot of people do like to sit around in our town. You see them say browse with their friends outside, which we never had. So I think what we need to add is more public seating. We don't have enough of that throughout the town. There's really no places for people to gather, just to sit and talk to people.
Right, so the young lady in the front row's from Souderton, so I don't think the people watching live can hear your question. So one of the things she was talking about was having outdoor seating. But one of the things, to use Souderton as an example, like things that they did right, like they renovated their train station. And the way they did it is some opportunity that we have as well, that there's something called a RACP grant, which is kind of administered by the state reps or state senators. And it allows, it's a matching grant, which the borough would have to kind of support that. But that's how they renovated their station. They courted a partner with Northbound, renovated the building, created a new parking lot. It's a great example. I eat there a lot, actually. And then just this past year, they had additional funds where they renovated on the opposite side of the tracks. I think there's a salon in the one building and a new brewery in the other. So I think part of, it's working on that long term, and that was a partnership between, and we have some incentives, the borough here to renovate the station, but I think that's a great example. Yes, sir.
See, back to Souderton, they used to have a model railroad club upstairs, and they got chased out. If you turn the train station temporarily into bring a model railroad club in and have them set up, be like a display, that would be a draw. Until somebody decided they wanted to put money into it, and renovate the thing.
So one of the things about like people, gentleman was talking about, could you have like a pop-up store in the train station? So sort of yes, sort of no. But-
Display.
Well-
Big railroad.
But let me explain. So in order to do that, you have to get what's called a use and occupancy permit. And so in order to do that, it has to be up to a certain building code to do it. So even though it's vacant, you can't let people occupy it if it's not a safe structure. So yes, it's a great idea. Technically, I don't know if we can do that. So
Building needs a lot of work.
Pardon?
That building needs a lot of work. It does. And even, and a good example of what Steve said was, you can never own the building. It's owned by SEPTA. They're not going to give that property.
Well, my thing was, until you get somebody that wants to take over the building and do something with it, put money into it, you could have a you could have a model room if they wanted to come in and set up their display. And it'd be a club that would do that, and then you could have people come in and view it.
But it's still, the building still has to be brought up to code for that.
right, you can't,
Or the floor is concrete.
no.
No. That building needs a ton of work. And for anybody, whether it's a brewery, whether it's a coffee shop, no matter what it is.
It's a red herring.
It
It's
has
a
to
challenge,
be,
yes.
it has to be brought up to code. Bottom line, it has to be brought up to code to the point where it can be used for something. Like Northbound was a lot easier. Northbound didn't need as much money as that building is going to need. That building needs a lot of money.
So it's worth or without the building there.
No, it's not worth it. It's not.
So the northbound project, I think that was 2.5 million or,
Yeah.
so, yeah, when I was talking to their borough manager, it was at least $2.5 million.
I love North.
That included the parking lot, stormwater, renovating the building. They built an addition off the back of that building.
And now we have a big building one. Stuff that now, same mark, $4 million to do it. So, the price has changed. And I forgot to mention, we have 3 drawers or 3 art galleries in town. One exhibit B, one Art on the Hill, which a lot of artists put their stuff, and then a new one that's opening up. So now I think that the addition of 3 art galleries is going to be helpful to the town.
Right. Yes, sir.
I'd like to bring up something in relation to that. First of all, I'm the chairman of the Borough Committee here in Borough. And I mean, it's not building there.
Being your mate.
We've had many discussions about the building there. Just to make things a little clearer, first of all, we are, as VCs, responsible, Borough is responsible to bring that building up to code. And what that means is the electrical systems, the heating system, sanitation systems. Beyond that point, and we have to pay for that ourselves. Okay, so we've got a investment into that building of, let's say, $100,000 or whatever it is. Over and above that, whoever comes in to that building, they're responsible for shelving, displays, tables, whatever, furniture. Okay, they have to have enough funds available and financing available to sustain them for at least, I would say, at least a 3-year period, and possibly 5, before we would look seriously at a particular vendor to come in there. I don't think a train, a train club is going to meet those qualifications. Because we're looking long term. We're not looking for just something temporary. We're looking for something long term. They have to have the financial resources to carry that on from when we turn that lease over to them.
Sounds like a big money pit. Yeah.
Well, it's, so one of my friends always says obstacles are opportunities. So we have a tremendous opportunity
Okay, that's all.
to create something wonderful here.
Maybe like what you said is splitting it up into, because it sounds like it's going to be hard to do that. One business, like splitting it up might be our best opportunity. Plus, you'd have more draw if you have more variety of things.
Right, so the building could naturally be divided in thirds. So if you're looking at the building itself, there's 2 levels to it. So on the left side, it's like street level. And then there's sort of an upper portion, which I think originally had been sort of the freight part where people would load packages on and off the train. So there you could sort of do that. And then the pole barn is 1,500 square feet. And Bob had renovated his pole barn. So like you could easily, insulate it, heat it, put, whether you have garage doors that open or not, but it's sort of a nice space really. And you have unlimited parking.
I disagree. I think that we shouldn't lose sight of the fact that this property is like the capstone of the triangle that's our downtown space. And we want it to be like this beautiful place that like draw that we all want to go to. And I think that there is somebody there that will want to get in there. There is an entrepreneur out there that not only wants to get in there, but is capable of getting in there. And it's just a matter of time. And this is a long game. It's not going to happen from one day to the next, but it will happen when it's supposed to.
So one of the funny metaphors I heard was about what's the secret to catching fish? So it's not having the best fishing rod, it's not having the best bait, it's not having the best lure. The best way to catch fish is to go where there are fish. And so the one thing that I bring to you, I have a lot of contacts. And so people, reach out to me all the time, but then I try to cultivate people who would align with sort of what your vision is for the station. And it takes a little while. You have to build relationships. You have to find out what they want, what they need, how big a space, all of that. So.
Are you looking at the train station as the jumping off point for revitalization of that whole area?
No, I mean, part of my sort of goal is, trying to, you have to, kind of working with everybody all along. So it's not putting all our one egg in a big basket. It's all the eggs in the basket. So the more we can help everybody thrive, then it benefits all of us. And so little things that I do, like I help, promote Bob the other day. I did some like video reels for the Be Still Nutrition. So did some stuff for Franconia Auto the other day. And it's slow, but it keeps building. And when I post the things sort of on my professional sites, like LinkedIn, that's where a lot of the developer people are. So I get a lot of calls from those sort of posts. And, you know, a lot of these developers like when I go and start working for another town because they know something's going to happen. And so I've already had these developer guys calling me like, well, what do you got over there? So that's sort of what you want to have happen. Any other questions? Well, I want to thank you all, and please, you know, I'm here on Mondays, so you can meet and reach out to me. Lindsay at the front desk can, you know, get info to me. And then, you know, please, I would encourage you to attend the other municipal borough meetings and things. Okay, thank you very much, and thank you.
So that's the conclusion of the town hall meeting. Thank you all for your participation. It was a great conversation. Again, as Steve said, and we've all been saying, Borough Council, this is just the start of something great for Hatfield Borough, and we all just have to be vested in that. And please, comments, come in, come to meetings, come to HUROC meetings. If you're interested, Rich, as he said, he's the chair. He'd be happy to take your information after the meeting. Send emails, come to council meetings. Please be involved. This is just the beginning of something great that's going to happen in Hatfield Borough. We're looking forward to it. And quickly following up on Mr. Damas's original question of the connector route, phase 2 will be expected to be finished in fall of 2025. They do have a website that tracks the whole project. I'd be happy to email that to you and also post that on our borough page as a connection so everybody else can get that information as well. Yes, yeah. And that's just phase 2. They'll be in phase 3. So, but
How do you know my name?
yeah. Yeah, I guess that's part of my job. So thank you for attending this evening. Travel safely.
Thank you.